we are super excited to know
Yeah.
how you're going to make us all look amazing when we come out of lockdown without having to go to the gym or anything like that. And you're just
So,
going to lie us on a bed.
yeah. So basically anyone who does know me or follows me, I do basically specialize in laser. So I have very sort of high tech equipment in clinic to basically provide various sort of different aesthetic treatments, normally using sort of laser or various sort of light devices. And I do certain body treatments. I can treat stretch marks, acne. When we get acne on the back, it's not always necessarily the face. But for quite a while, I've been looking for, sort of a really good sort of body contouring device. And there have been sort of various, machines that have come out over the years. And I never go, even if some celebrity is sort of endorsing, something, at the end of the day, celebrities get paid, to endorse things. And
Exactly.
I'm not saying at all that, machines that they're endorsing don't work. But for me, I have to look at the science. I have to look at, what is this machine supposedly doing, and what can it therefore do for the client. So when the new Onda machine came out, so for anyone who doesn't know, Onda is basically, it's not radio frequency, it's not fat freezing, it's actually using microwaves. So we're literally microwaving your fat and cellulite. And the reason that's so important is that, well, for a start, there is no other device out there that actually uses targeted microwaves. And secondly, it works very, very differently on the skin and on fat. So traditionally, sort of body contouring machines that use radio frequency, the energy doesn't really penetrate far enough to actually do something to the fat. So with the microwave, sometimes people say to me, oh my God, is it like a microwave at home? And it's like, no, it's actually very targeted microwaves. And the beauty of it is that when I don't know if I can get this handpiece in view, so the energy comes out of this handpiece. And it actually, so when you first put it on the skin, it actually feels quite cold. And people are often like, oh, that feels really cool, which is great because we're both sort of cooling and heating the skin at the same time. And sometimes people say, oh, I'm not sure, is it warm? Is it hot? They're not sort of quite sure. But basically, the microwaves go straight through the skin, so there's very little resistance, unlike sort of when you use, radio frequency, and therefore it goes straight to the fat layer, which is where you want it to go. So with the Onda machine, about 94% of the energy reaches the fat layer, and that is hugely significant because that is where we need to be heating in order to destroy our fat cells. So for anyone who doesn't know, basically this machine will do fat, cellulite and skin tightening. And that's another thing that, when I was looking at the technology was hugely important, because if you're lucky enough to live, near a clinic that may have various different machines, one that does fat and one that does cellulite and one that does skin tightening, then that's great, because not all clinics do have that choice. But even if they do, you're going to have to go onto 3 different machines to get, hardly anyone only has a little bit of skin to tighten. Hardly anyone has just one little pocket of fat with no cellulite. And so what it means is, for the client, you'd have to go onto 3 different machines, and inevitably, I guess, you'd have to pay sort of 3 different treatments. I mean, I'm not sure how, people price their treatments, but with this machine, when you go under the handpiece, you are getting fat, you're getting cellulite, and you're getting skin tightening. So you're getting everything. And that's why, from a clinician point of view, I was so excited about it, because one, it's highly effective at doing what it's supposed to do. And when I get a client coming through the door, I want to know that it's going to work. At the end of the day, it's your business reputation, your clients put their faith in you. And with the other sort of technologies, it can be a little bit hit and miss, So what I would say for, you were saying earlier on about, we won't have to go to the gym, we can just, sort of lie on a couch. So basically, this is not instead of, obviously, and I know you were obviously half joking, but
Well,
it's
only
not
half.
instead.
If I could lie on a bed and get it all sucked away, that'd be amazing. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Oh, I've just seen apparently Zara saying good night. Good night, Zara.
good night, Zara. Sleep tight.
So yeah, so basically what this is not going to do, okay, is it's not going to make someone who is a size 30
of course,
to a size 8, okay.
Yeah.
What it is absolutely fantastic for is if you have a generally sort of a healthy lifestyle, anything up to a BMI of sort of up to 30, but you just have that sort of pocket of fat, or you have that sort of stubborn, you know, cellulite, that you know, diet and exercise will not shift alone. And this is the answer to that. Excuse me.
Can you do like bat wings here and under the arms and things like that?
Yeah, so we can do any pockets of fat that, you know, certain areas that we can't do, but yeah, anywhere on the torso, pretty much. And also sort of, you know, sort of bat wings, sort of, you know, under your arm, stomach, thighs, inner thighs is great as well. So yeah, you can pretty much do any area sort of on the trunk and inner thighs and the arms. It's comfortable, it's not, you know, and it's really quick. So one area is like about 10 to 15 minutes. You know, normally when you're trying to get rid of any kind of fat using sort of, you know, sort of fat freezing, for example, you need to be sort of in the paddles, as it were, for about a good 45 minutes plus sometimes. But this is very, very quick, it's very comfortable, and it's really effective. And for me, that, you know, that is one of the most important things, is the combination of the client comfort and obviously the fact that you're getting results. You don't want something that's really comfortable, but you're not going to see any difference. But equally, you don't want to be feeling like you're tortured. So yeah, so it's great in that respect.
So Tatler have just voted this machine. So Tatler produce a cosmetic guide, don't they, every year? So they produced their guide for 2021, and this was their #1 machine for body contouring. So they, you know, they kind of pretty much know what they're talking about, don't they? They're pretty good.
They do.
So do you think this is a growing treatment? Do you think more and more people are moving to machinery for those stubborn, like you say, the stubborn pockets?
Yeah, I do, because I think it's especially frustrating, you know, for people who do everything right. You know, they exercise, they look after themselves, but you just get those pockets of fat that won't shift. And interestingly, especially in women, certain areas like the abdomen, you know, sort of the hips, etc. Unfortunately for us, the fat deposits there are very much linked to your hormones, and so especially sort of, you know, post menopause, you know, it's very unfortunate. You know, you can do everything right, and that's why, you know, these pockets of fat don't shift with exercise, because it's actually very hormonally driven. Whereas this treatment literally destroys your fat cells. So, and I don't know if you know, but you're actually born with a certain amount of fat cells. So when you put on weight, you're not actually increasing the number of fat cells. You're just basically filling them up. And what this does is it literally destroys the actual fat cell. And obviously it does require you to exercise, you know, sort of afterwards to actually sort of get rid of the fat through the body.
Where did it go?
You basically excrete it.
Oh, right. Okay. So it turns into waste.
Yes. Exactly.
So here's the question, right? So I always think of crazy questions. So say you have it done in one place.
Yeah.
Does it not make the other places then look weirdly wrong? Like, how does it all kind of fit in again?
No, this is another reason why I love microwaves compared to fat freezing, because when you say you had a pocket of fat in your stomach, okay, and you went to have some fat freezing. So first of all, it needs to be quite sort of pliable fat for fat freezing, and it needs to sit between two paddles, and that is very, very focused. So literally, if this is your fat and this is where the paddles are holding, it is only going to treat that bit, okay? Now, when you're grabbing fat on your stomach and you're literally passing this hand piece over, so say for example, I'm just treating the area of my hand, I don't know if you can see that. The area above the stomach and below, the heat that goes into the tissue and into the fat, then disperses outwards. So it gives a very natural sort of
Even
look effect.
right.
And also, you know, when you are treating the sort of the stomach area, I'm going to stand up slightly. So even if you're treating literally just this, even though you're not touching these areas, you can see a definite improvement in the shape of the waist, because the heat emanates out. So it's not just the clump of, you know, the area of fat that you're actually treating. It actually disperses, so it gives a really nice,
yes, you see, fat
overall
freezing doesn't do that, because I was given a complimentary Cool Sculpt fat freezing thing. It was awful, because exactly like you said, it was that one area. So then either side of it looks wrong, because this area is like, and it gets sucked into the machine and then it freezes. Like it's not very comfortable, because it hurt, you know, it's tight and it's freezing cold. And I know Cool Sculpt were like the #1 treatment, but I think you've got to go and have different, you've just got to keep going back and having these different pockets done. Can you do like the back, you know, like the bra strap, when women get that sort of over the bra strap? Can you do that with this as well?
Yeah, we can. There just needs to be a sort of enough fat to be able to do it. You know, sometimes people feel fat. You know, sometimes people come in to see me and they go, oh, I've got this fat, and really it's actually not fat, it's more like sort of skin tightening. But then again, yeah, we can do that, but we're not going to be trying to dissolve fat, because really it's actually skin. But that's what I love about it. You really can address sort of all of those concerns. So yeah, I mean, I'm just waiting for lockdown to end, basically, so that we can and I think, you know,
under here.
Yeah, so there is, I don't have the handpiece for that, but that is coming out. So there is a handpiece that does what we call the submental, so literally under here. But again, there needs to be enough fat for that to be done. Otherwise, you're looking more at sort of, you know, other sort of skin tightening devices. But as long as there's actual fat there, then yeah, you can definitely do that.
So kill us with the cost then. What would be the cost? Something like
so
this?
Yeah, so it's basically done per area. So each area is sort of 15 by 15 centimeters. So one area is £250 per session, but if you do 2 in the same appointment, it's £295. You do need a course of treatment. So yeah, it's much more cost effective. So if you're doing sort of, you know, your inner thighs, that would be 2 sort of areas, it would be £295. So it's, you know, it's much more cost effective, obviously, if you do 2 areas. But the results, you know, I think people just, you know, it's worth it. You know, people have been struggling for years to try and get rid of these sort of pockets and areas. And now you can do something about it. So,
and it won't come back.
So it's not going to prevent you from ever putting on weight again. But you basically, because you're destroying the fat cells, you would have to then obviously significantly put on more weight to be able to sort of fill up. Obviously, we're not getting rid of all of your fat cells. So if you had someone, okay, who was, you know, very consistent in they exercise 3 times a week, they relatively eat the same thing, but they just have this sort of pocket of fat they can't get rid of, then no, they're not going to tend to put that back on, because it is literally that, because what they are doing is, you know, they're not overweight as such, they just have a pocket. And so that is the sort of the best. And obviously client selection is key, like with any body contouring treatments. But yeah, that's the kind of client who's doing everything right, they have this unwanted area, pocket of fat, and they remain consistent. Now, if that client goes home and thinks, right, well, I've had this amazing Onda treatment, I think I'll have, like, you know, cake every day now, then, you know, that's not going to work.
So how many, so if it was like love handles, or, you know, like, I'm just thinking of the obvious where everybody kind of moans about the same. Sometimes there's a layer, isn't there, under the boobs, where that kind of layer around there that goes around to the bra. So you have your 2 areas, which will be either side, because otherwise it'll be a bit. So your 2 areas is either side. Then how many times will we need to go? How many treatments for that? For one treatment?
So it completely depends on how much fat there is, but generally sort of anywhere sort of from 3 sessions. I mean, you know, some people get amazing results after a single session. You know, the difference is phenomenal. but they want to keep going. They know they want to get rid of more. So, you know, anywhere from 1 up to 4, possibly if you have a lot, you know. And with cellulite, for example, you know, I know we haven't spoken much about that yet, but with cellulite, and depending on the grade of cellulite, you might need anywhere sort of 4 to 6 sessions. But most people are getting results from, you know, around 3 sessions, and some people are getting results after 1, you know. So it depends on, yeah, sorry, go on.
You pay for both sessions each time?
Yeah, so each time you come, you would pay for that session.
So basically you pray that you get a great result in the first one, because then it's going to cost you less money. But actually, if your fat's a bit more stubborn, then be prepared to, you know, manage the expectations and be prepared to pay a little bit more if you've got a little bit more. But it's still a lot cheaper than liposuction, isn't it? And no general anesthetic, no like surgery.
No, it's really safe. And that's the other thing, you know, because although we are heating the fat to sort of, you know, 55, 60 degrees, because 94% of the energy is going into the fat, the skin is actually really well protected. So you don't have the risks of, you know, skin burns like you can do with radio frequency. So it's very safe, very effective, and not uncomfortable. That's the thing. So, and interestingly, so Deca, who make the Onda, have recently they released some new protocols where they literally kind of whacked up the energy to think, you know, to see if they could get quicker results, but still safe, effective, comfortable. And it's really exciting because obviously these all came out during lockdown. So as soon as I'm open again, it's like, right.
So do you think, Kerry, that there's an age limit with this sort of thing? Do you think that you know, is there an age that you wouldn't do the treatment below a certain age? Or
so below, I mean, that's a really interesting question, because I've never been asked that about this treatment.
Typical, sorry.
You know, with laser, it's really simple. You know, I don't treat under 16s. So from an ethical and moral point of view, I don't feel that I should be treating teenagers, you know, because they're still growing. They're still, you know, I just don't believe. I mean, from an insurance point of view, yeah, I guess you could treat anyone over the age of 16, really? But you know,
they don't say 18 and above or 21 and above, because I know at the moment we've got a thing. I don't know if you've met Jane, the psychologist, who I'm fascinated with.
No, but I've seen her about her posts.
Yeah, she's just amazing. So it was Children's Mental Health Week this week.
Yeah.
So and when you're 14, which is quite off subject, but actually interestingly in your game as well. Yeah. So if you have mental health issues when you're 14, then that's when your life span of mental health issues, which kind of blew me away. I never knew that. It was like,
no,
wow,
I didn't know that, actually.
So young. Yeah, I didn't know. And fat shaming and all these things are such a problem now on the internet, on Instagram, and you know, everything. So there aren't solutions to that. So on the one hand, you're like, don't be ridiculous, you couldn't take some pockets of fat off the 16-year-old. On the other hand, if the 16-year-old is being really badly affected by these, you know, chunky hips, you'd be like, oh my god, this could be a solution. It's a real strange boundary at the moment.
Yeah, I completely hear what you're saying, but as a mother of a 5-year-old girl, there's so many issues here at stake, because from a physiological point of view, that teenager is still growing, you know, and I don't think it would be a good idea to start doing any kind of body contouring on a 16-year-old. For me personally, it would be an outright no. You know, in terms of the bullying, and I know all about bullying, you know, when I moved over from Greece, I was bullied, you know, quite a lot at school for my accent, for the colour of my skin, because I arrived back looking literally black, because being half Greek, I go really, you know, dark in the sun. So I really do, you know, when you talk about bullying, I completely understand what that is like. But despite that, I think it's really important that teenagers are taught to, you know, to be athletic, to be sporty, to, you know, feed their bodies with the right nutrition, to not resort to machinery. This is very different to someone who is an adult, making an informed decision with consent, that, you know, they are doing everything right, that they possibly had a baby and they just can't shift this excess weight on their belly. But to all intents and purposes, everywhere else, you know, they are doing the right things in terms of nutrition and exercise. I don't feel it's right to be using body contouring on teenagers, but you know, that's just my personal opinion. And as a mother,
I'm really happy to hear you say that, and it's such a massive ethical question, but it's a growing problem because more cosmetic doctors are being asked to do more stuff, and mums are desperate for their kids to be happy. So if they think that this is the thing that's making them unhappy, then you know they're prepared to pay for it. In our day, it was having your ears pinned back, wasn't it? If you had big ears, you know, like your mum would take you and pay and you'd have your ears pinned back, and it was kind of life-changing. And I feel like that whole ears pinned back thing is just going to a whole bigger spectrum now of girls like and boys wanting
and I think it's slightly different with ears because with your body, you know, you are still developing, you're still, you know, your hormones are determining, you know, your size, your shape, and so I completely understand what you're saying, but I
difficult
don't.
One, isn't it? I'm glad to hear you say. So what is your age limit? What is the age that you would start doing these treatments? I mean,
do you know, that's really tricky, and I've not really thought about this because I've not had anyone under the age of 20, you know, come to me. I think I would do on a client by client basis, and you know, as part of, you know, because obviously I do, you know, laser treatments, I am trained to look out for what we call body dysmorphia. So for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's basically where you have a very distorted perception of what you look like. And these, you know, people who suffer with body dysmorphia are constantly trying to do, you know, more and more procedures to look a certain way, which when they look in the mirror, they never kind of get there anyway, because they have such a distorted perception of themselves in any event. So I think, you know, I think that I wouldn't treat a teenager, put it that way. I think I'd want to see people in their 20s, and I'd need to assess them, you know, in terms of their lifestyle, what they're doing, their expectations, why they're doing. You know, some people obviously do have babies quite young, and they may be doing all the right things and they can't get rid of a pocket of fat. So yeah, I'd have to take it on a case by case basis.
That's
but
that's absolutely the right way to deal with it. But that's the right way to deal with stuff, isn't it? But I don't think there are so many clinics that are not ethical like this. And, you know, ethics is super important. Wherever you're going to go, you need to know that that person has your best interests at heart, and not just because they're going to take the money off you.
Absolutely.
Even to the point where they're going to take your money and actually you're not going to have great results because you are dysmorphic and you really haven't got any pockets of fat. But I'm going to take your money off you anyway because, you know, I'm a clinic and I want to. So I love asking you really awkward questions because
especially when you don't prep me for it.
Yeah, no, I didn't prep you for that because I know you, but I want to draw out of you what everybody else doesn't know about you, and that is just that your core values, you know, as an aesthetic practitioner, your ethics are amazing, and I just wish there was more people like that, and they're not. And I say, you know, oh, it depended on, bring her in at 15 and I'll have a look, and you know, you're absolutely right. That's not okay. That's really not okay, and it's not what we want to see from clinics.
And I think, you know, even before I had my daughter, I was exactly the same. So I just, there is that, you know, at the end of the day, like, I don't know if you saw recently, I had the amazing opportunity of talking to Eddie Izzard live while he was running, she was running one of her marathons. She's gender fluid now. So sometimes it's he, sometimes it's she. But when she was running.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so and she was asking me, you know, about, you know, basically my business, because she's very interested in sort of, you know, women and, you know, entrepreneurs and etc. And I was talking about body dysmorphia there, and I was saying that, you know, at the end of the day, isn't it great that if you know, body dysmorphia aside, you know, assuming that you don't suffer with any kind of sort of distorted perception of yourself, and you genuinely have just something, it's not anything else going on in your life, it is literally just that one thing that really bothers you, isn't it great that now there is pretty much a technology that can sort out that problem for you? But it's the why, you know, why are you wanting to do it? I think that's what's most, and obviously I'm not a psychotherapist, but I have had enough training in my time to be able to kind of assess, you know, whether this person, because sometimes it's not laser that someone needs, or it's not body contouring, it's actually a very different kind of help. And taking money off them for that is not going to solve their problems. So yeah, I am very ethical, and I think it's really crucial to have the right ethics and morals, really, you know, when you're in this business. And at the end of the day, why not? Because if you are like that, you're going to get that amazing client trust, and you're going to have, you know, a long-term business. So it just doesn't work not to be like that, I don't think.
Well,
so.
we don't think it does, but I think it works for some people. It just wouldn't work for us. So tell us about this board. You're on the executive board. You've got your first board membership, which is amazing. So
I know. So I was amazed, actually. I was put forward for it, and part of me was thinking, you know, why do they want me on the board? I mean, and that's not to play down what I do, you know. I am brilliant at what I do, and that's not to be big-headed. You know, I have 16 years of laser experience. I'm a laser trainer. You know, I really do know my stuff. But also, at the end of the day, the British Medical Laser Association is, you know, it's full of physicists and dermatologists, and, you know, and I'm like, I mean, I know my stuff, and I'm a trainer, etc. But yeah, it's a fantastic opportunity, because the work they do is amazing. I mean, they literally inform national policy, and I think, you know, the majority of laser users in the UK are not actually medical or of a medical background. You know, they are estheticians, and so part of my role is to kind of bring, you know, the gap between, you know, because a lot of people feel that, oh, well, it's the British Medical Laser Association, so therefore it doesn't apply to me. But actually it very much does apply, and we've got a great virtual conference this year, sadly not in Edinburgh. I had my tickets booked last year, and then it all got cancelled, so now it's virtual. But I think we are going to be in Edinburgh next year, where there's fantastic, you know, talks and sort of lectures, and so yeah, so it's amazing, and I was really chuffed to be voted on. But yeah, and
so how long's your term? How long are you on the board for?
That's it, indefinitely.
And what, forever?
Until they decide they don't want me anymore, I guess.
Oh,
so,
that won't.
Yeah,
so the NHBF, the National Hair and Beauty Federation, that I've been on the board of, we do 3 years, and then we have to leave, which I actually think is fair enough, because otherwise you just have to stale old man's shoes, and, you know, you can have people on the board for 20 years and they're not fresh and relevant. And, you know, so I have thoroughly enjoyed sitting on the board, and I feel like I've sat on the board during the most, you know, difficult time, like, for our industry, our whole sector. It's been so difficult, so being part of being able to navigate a way through that and fight with government for more money, and a drop in VAT and all that stuff so I was actually on the beauty and aesthetics side, more than the hair. Well, you do it all, but because I've got a beauty salon and an aesthetic salon as well, I was involved in what they were doing there. And actually there is a lot of lobbying for government. There's a lot more than any of us realise.
I know, because this last year I kept coming to you for news, going, so any information? Any news? Any news?
So they have actually now given us our own sector, haven't they? So now we're in personal care, which is great, because we're not in retail anymore and all the rest of it. So so we're going right off piste, and we're talking industry, and obviously people don't want to know about that. So are there any additions to this machine, or, you know, so we've got the tightening, we've got the shrinking, so we'll come out with less fat cells. Where the fat cells have gone, it'll be a little bit tighter. Do you know what I think it's like? I think it's a bit like putting steak on a barbecue, and when you cook the steak, it shrinks.
Well, it's actually quite a good analogy, because obviously, although a barbecue isn't using microwaves, it is heat, and we're using the microwaves to generate heat. And so, yeah, you do get that sort of shrinkage. But I think the thing that, you know, I know we've talked a lot about fat, but I think the thing that excites people even more is the cellulite. You know, I remember when I was at university, I knew this girl who, honestly, she must have been about a size sort of 6 to 8. She was tiny. She was only 21. She had some of the worst cellulite I think I have ever seen, you know, and she was so young as well. So so yeah, it's fantastic on cellulite. And I think also one of the key things that I wanted to say on here as well is that if you're starting to see that you're starting to get cellulite, come on in, because the sort of the lower the grade it is, you know, the quicker it is to reverse it as well. So it does work on all grades, but it's particularly great, you know, sort of obviously the younger we are in terms of, you know, like in our 20s, our ability to sort of, you know, build collagen is just, you know, phenomenal. So the younger we are in that respect in your 20s, when you're trying to do any kind of sort of collagenesis, is fantastic. But yeah, but cellulite, I don't know if you know, but the reason you get cellulite is because you literally imagine sort of these pockets of fat, and they're held by these sort of, they're called septi, and they're sort of like this sort of elastic sort of strings, if you like, and they literally get sort of less elasticy and they become quite rigid, but in the meantime the fat carries on filling, and so you get this sort of undulating effect because they're quite taut, but the fat is kind of sort of bulging up because they're swelling.
So cellulite is from weight gain then. So if you didn't gain weight, you wouldn't get cellulite.
You can get cellulite. You can be, honestly, you can be stick thin sometimes and have cellulite. And cellulite as a condition is actually quite complex as well, in terms of why you get it, where you get it, you know, hereditary factors, what's going on, you know, in the tissue. But yeah, the Onda's amazing for it. It doesn't really matter how or, you know, why you're getting it.
So it will just go.
Yeah, so it literally vibrates. So the way it works is it's almost like, you know, when you have sort of a cup of milk and you put that in a microwave, the microwaves heat the milk, and although the mug may feel warm, it's not actually heating the mug. It's the heat that's emanating out from the milk that's heating your mug. And it's the same with your skin. When the microwaves are put into the tissue, it's actually heating the fat, and then the residual heat goes out and upwards, so you get that lovely skin tightening effect as well as it's coming up on the way out. But it's very, very safe because it's not heating the skin as such. It's passing through the skin, and then some heat is coming up on the way out. So yeah, so it's very, very safe and effective. And what happens with the cellulite is it literally destroys these sort of septi, these sort of rigid bands, and then the body actually builds new ones. So that's why you get that nice sort of smoothing effect. So
basically then, when we come out of lockdown, we can book in with you and you will have us bikini ready. Like, you know, we are going to be bikini ready in 3 to 4 sessions. Are we limited to how many sessions? So say we've said, okay, I don't care, I'm going to pay the money, even if it takes 4 goes, I'm going to invest my 4 goes. Do we have to leave so long in between each go, or can we just come, we can come and have...
So yeah, so for fat and cellulite, it's generally around 4 weeks. Okay, you can do around 3 weeks for some skin tightening, but generally you need to allow the body that time. So that's why, you know, if and when we do open in March, hopefully, fingers crossed, come in as soon as possible.
So if you were going to get married and you were a bride, then you would leave yourself 4 weeks to get rid of these pockets of fat before your wedding, and then your bridal dress will look...
So the really important thing to know is that with any kind of treatment where you're instigating collagenesis, so the building of collagen and things like that, is that the effects of the treatment carry on for months afterwards. So actually best before, so say like you finished your treatment in April, the best before and after photos are not actually going to be 4 weeks after that. It's actually going to be several months afterwards.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, you do see an effect quite quickly. But if you want to see the maximum results of, you know, this is what I did, this is what I spent, I want to see the maximum results, then you would take photographs sort of a few months afterwards.
I can't imagine. I don't know a girl who wouldn't book in for this. Like, we've all got either cellulite or a little bit of pocket love handles or under the arm wing back. You know, we've all got that little something somewhere that just drives us mad. I'm definitely booking for this.
You're coming in.
I'm definitely coming in. Definitely, 100%.
Well, that's great. Well, look, I just hope we're going to be able to open soon, and then, you know, people can, because I do feel that, you know, we are so lucky, the industry that we're in, you know, people are just dying to get back to their treatments. And so, you know, I get regular texts from clients going, when do you think we'll open? You know, which is great. At least we're not in an industry which is going to struggle when we open back up again. So,
No, we hope not. We
no,
hope that clients
exactly.
won't have forgotten us, and you know
Yeah,
we're on their list when we all come back open again. They're all
yeah,
desperate to come back to us, because that,
exactly.
I think, as a business owner, that's your biggest fear, isn't it? It's like, what if they don't come back? Like, what will we
Yeah,
do? But
yeah.
yeah, we're very
I
lucky.
don't, yeah, I think, God, who's gonna do their hair on their own? Do you know what I mean? So I know I can't wait to come back and see. So,
But we
um,
have a lot of there's a lot of people doing hair in lockdown this time.
oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of people having people to their, it's one of our biggest, it's a big issue. They had to write a letter, the NHBF had to actually write an open letter to the Football Association this week to say,
So,
you know, you
stop.
can't keep putting
Yeah,
these
can't be
guys
doing
on
this.
TV.
Yeah.
I had a message last week from a footballer who was going on to Sky TV, and they were looking for a haircut this week. And you know, you really want to help them out, but by the same token, it's a
Yeah.
national lockdown, and
No.
you just don't want to be made an example. Why? You shouldn't do it. You just shouldn't be doing it. It's just not
And
right.
also the longer, you know, the more we all adhere to it, the quicker we're going to get out of this mess. So, what I was
What
going to
did you
say, just
say? We're desperate to come back.
come
Oh,
back.
Sarah Girl. Oh, bless you. Thank you. That makes me, I'll sleep tonight now. That makes me feel better.
So basically I was just going to say, anyone who is wanting to get rid of either sort of a pocket of fat, cellulite, or some skin tightening, the one thing to know is that this machine will do all of it. Okay, you don't have to jump
Okay,
from one machine to do this and one machine to
great.
that. You will get, with any treatment, you're always going to get a little bit of fat, a little bit of
Okay,
cellulite, and a bit of skin tightening, and depending on the settings, we can adjust that to really target if it's more fat or cellulite
okay.
or skin. It's comfortable, it's really effective, and yeah, it works basically. So but and
Thanks, Kerry.
it's not uncomfortable. That's the main thing to take away,
Okay,
and it's
amazing.
quick, really quick. So
Thank you. And can you come back next time and talk to us about this amazing facial that you do? Like
yes,
pre-wedding facials and things like that.
yeah,
What's it called? What's the facial
the
called? Illumi.
Illumifacial,
Yes, I want to know
yeah.
all about we want to know all about the Illumi facial. So we want
Yeah,
to know exactly
absolutely.
what it does.
And
And
I was going to say, and anyone, you know, if anyone wants to hear more about certain topics than others, I think today it was just going to be sort of an introduction to Onda treatment. But I can actually come on again if people want to actually sort of, you know, know more sort of in-depth sort of on the science side of it. Maybe they're used to having radio frequency and they want to know specifically why this is going to be much better. Than I can do that. But it's always kind of gauging that, sort of not bogging people down too much with the sort of the technical data. You know, I can talk to you about gigahertz and all sorts, but the main thing to take away from this is that most things meet resistance with your skin. Microwaves literally pass through the skin but stop in the fat layer. That's why it doesn't, the microwaves don't go anywhere else in your body. You know, it's not going to suddenly affect your liver or start zapping your kidneys. They literally
yes,
wouldn't be a good idea. They literally stop, so they pass through the skin really well,
clever,
and
isn't it?
then they get absorbed by the fat layer, and where also you have all the cellulite. And so, and that, you know, that's why it just works so well. And I wish, the thing with Instagram is you can't show diagrams like you would on, say, your
No,
PowerPoint. You know,
no. Can I ask you something? Are you not just tempted to go on this machine like yourself all the time? Like, I'd just get thinner and thinner. I'd be like, oh, I'll just do myself. I'll just do my legs here. I'll just,
so funny enough, I am treating my stomach and inner thighs at the
of
moment, but
course, why wouldn't you?
I can't get to, there is a technique to it, you know. And
Okay.
so when you have the hands, if I can get this into view a bit, so that is like the machine. It's called
Right.
Onda, and at first I was like, why did they call it Onda? You know, it doesn't really do what it says on the tin, but Onda means wave in Italian. as in this,
Okay.
not necessarily like a wave in the sea, but like a microwave basically.
Yeah.
And so there is you know, a bit of a technique to this, the way, you know, you go over the skin, and I
So it's
literally
hard to do it yourself.
I can't get to my backside. so
Oh, you can't
I
get
am
to your
doing,
bottom.
no, not very easily, and keep contact, which you need to do. So it
Yeah,
is
cool.
something that you do need, and obviously the backs of my legs as well. So it's, you know, you need to, I can kind of get to it, but you need to have that technique and the contact, and for it to be,
Right.
for the energy to be spread evenly. So I can do my stomach, and I can do my inner thighs, but the bits I really want to get to, I kind of need someone to do
I
it on.
love your honesty. So you are using the machine, which is exactly what I would do if I had one of those machines. I'd be forever on it.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
thanks, Kerry. I don't have so everyone's just really at my mercy and my questions. So I can't think of any more questions. I think you've just about
No,
covered
thank you.
everything. And every
Thank you for
time we
having me.
talk, we find out a little bit more about you as well, and a little bit more about, you know, where you are sitting in the aesthetics world. And you know, I think that's lovely. I think now our customers genuinely get what's marketing and what's genuine. And I think all of us are being a little bit more choosy about what we choose to. We want to hear it from the horse's mouth. We want to choose to believe. I think it's much better. These lives are much more authentic. It allows us to hear your knowledge, not read it in a Instagram post. You know, we can actually hear everything, you know. And I just think that's super important right now. I think that's what everybody wants.
And it's just the way I like to operate. It's just the way I am, full stop. And I think because, you know, I do have a very fantastic, you know, large, loyal sort of client base, you know, over the years when they've been asking me, well, why aren't you offering this, or why aren't you offering that? And it's like, because I'm just not quite happy with the science behind it yet, you know. So that when I've been saying that, then when I do eventually get a machine in, they know that I will settle for nothing but the best piece of equipment that's well made.
Even the products you sell, even your Jan Marini, like when I first started coming to you, I'd never heard of Jan Marini, and it's like, why isn't she doing a Abaji? You know, why isn't she doing this, that, and the other, every other product? Like, why is she doing Jan Marini? No one's ever heard of Jan Marini. Oh my God, they're the best products I've ever used in my life. In my life.
They do
They're amazing.
So thank you. I mean, I'm glad for you as well. But you know, when I have anything in my clinic, I do not allow anything into my toolbox that doesn't do what it says on the tin. You know, if it's not, you know, I just can't, you know, I just won't entertain it. You know, I'm very, very fussy, but in a good way. You know, at the end of the day, when people come here, they expect to get results, and that's what I'm.
Yeah,
you know,
no, it's I can 100% without, you know, completely recommend you. And literally it was a client a long time before we started to do all this. So you know, I'm speaking from the heart. I can genuinely speak from client experience, and that's great. And I'm super proud of you and everything you're doing and where you're going, because my God, you're now on a journey for sure. You're definitely up there, stardom, waving the flags for. It's amazing. You're amazing.
Well, it has been great. And I think, you know, it's also the other opportunities that have come off the back of it, which I love, because, you know, I'm now writing for Aesthetic Medicine magazine, and I love it, you know, because when I was at uni, I loved writing essays. I loved writing, you know, just conveying messages, and for me, that's great, because I genuinely love writing. I never get the chance to do that.
But you haven't got like an enormous PR or marketing machine behind you. And my granddad, rest his soul, he used to say to me, cream always rises to the top, love. Don't you worry. He did. He used to say, cream always rises to the top, love. Don't you worry. And do you know what? He's absolutely right. Because you can pay the biggest PR company and the biggest marketing company and spend the most money. If you are really, really good at what you do, somebody's going to notice what you're doing, and eventually they're going to invite you. And I never had a PR company or a marketing company or anything like that. I mean, never even heard of it in our day. It just wasn't there. But you know, your work spoke for itself. people's recommendations, and then, you know,
Oh, thank
slowly
you.
but surely, and you're definitely on that journey. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's
So,
funny because when I started, it was all yellow pages. It's like,
yes,
it felt like the dark ages. You know, there wasn't
yeah.
Facebook or Instagram or, you know, so. But yeah, it's funny how things have moved on. But
Oh,
yeah,
it's
I just
massively changed, but I don't think it's changed that much. So if you think of WOM, then WOM is still our biggest, like, without word of mouth, people, you know, even with Instagram, our customers are our biggest champions. They're the ones who tell their friends and tell everybody else, and that's still because we don't live in a big city, we live in quite a small community, and the value of the way our customers recommend us is just insane. And we need that. We still need word of mouth. I don't think Instagram or social media in a community can take over word of mouth. I think that's where people genuinely trust you. And what this does is this allows people to hear you. So we've never been able to hear from Kerry before.
I know.
So
I did not think back in 2004, 2005, I'd be on something called Instagram showing you my microwave machine, you know. So yeah, it's amazing.
Imagine how I feel. Do you think I ever thought I'd be on Instagram? No, I wouldn't have even heard of Instagram. I mean, I spent probably 25 years of being in business without the internet.
Yeah.
So how did you grow in those days? You only grew by people recommending you and consistency.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important. You know, if you have the right foundations in your business, you have the right ethics, you have the right motivations behind what you're doing. You know, like I've said it a couple of times tonight, but I really don't allow any equipment into my clinic, and I have a vast array of equipment here that isn't going to do the job. It's as simple as that, you know, because otherwise it's a very short business plan. Otherwise, it's not right ethically or morally, but it's just very bad business. It just doesn't work on any level. So I'm very fussy, I'm very particular, not only just in the equipment, but the training that comes with it. And obviously as a part-time trainer myself, you know, I really value, you know, training, education, qualifications, because, you know, you do need, you know, if you say you're going to be an expert in something or the best thing, then be an expert. Don't say you're an expert.
Do you believe in experts?
Yeah,
I don't believe in experts. I don't think anyone's no. I don't think anyone's an expert. I think
levels of expertise.
I think you're always learning. So there's somebody, you know, at my age, when you've been doing it for as long as me, then they'll call you an expert because you've been doing it a long time. But there's someone who's been doing it even longer than me, and they're still learning. I just think the minute you think that you've learned everything, we're in trouble, really, because once we've stopped learning. And I've been doing this thing at the moment on closed mind thinking. So I've been working a lot on mindset. And so many people are kind of, well, this is who I am, or this is what I am, and this is what I know. My God, that's so limiting, that if you're not constantly yearning to learn more, and you are always educating yourself, you're always looking to learn more. So we're still not experts.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think the label expert necessarily means that they know everything there is to know, nothing else. It's just that is where their area of expertise lies. So, you know, they have spent their time, energy, years focusing on that area. Yeah. Exactly. And that is why they are an expert in that field, but they're not by any means, you know, we're always learning. And that's what I love so much about laser, about, you know, this new technology, microwaves. I mean, God, who on earth would ever think that we'd be microwaving our fats so successfully and so much better than any other kind of treatment modality, you know? And that's what's so exciting about this industry. It's that, you know, with the right balance of, you know, of having sort of, you know, the right mindset in aesthetics combined with the right treatments and technologies available, the sky's the limit. It's amazing. You know, our grandparents, God, they'd be stuck with, you have the treatment options available. So
They
So
didn't, but they didn't fixate on it either. So they didn't fixate because they knew it couldn't be corrected. And I think this is, you know, it's a whole bigger other conversation. And it's another conversation for another Friday night over vodka.
Yeah, another Friday night with small wine.
Yeah, Friday night vodka and Boogie Wonderland. But they knew it couldn't be fixed, so they didn't fixate on it. Whereas we know it can be fixed. And this is part of the problem with the teenagers. And this is where this whole other big piece of work is being done, and this big conversation is happening, because they know it can be fixed. So when they know it can be fixed, then it's almost like a sacrifice not to fix it. And where does that moral dilemma come in there? So I think aesthetics is having a big ethical rethink. I think from a human point of view, it's important that we just remain human about all this. And, you know, like you said, which was the perfect answer, I would take it case by case. I would judge it by the person. I'm not sure that, you know, in large clinics and large groups, I think that's the trouble. The bigger it gets and the bigger the system gets, the more kids get lost in that system and the more things get swallowed up. So we're working on this at the moment, and I think over the next 5 years this is going to be a big driving force in, we have to change the culture around it. We have to make, you know, I don't know how they're legally going to do it, but they need to bring in some serious guidelines because it's so unregulated.
Yeah, I used to be regulated by the Care Quality Commission, but you know, in 2010, God, that's 11 years ago now, they decided to deregulate, you know, people in the aesthetic sector. So yeah, you're right, and I think there should be more regulation, but I think it needs to be proportionate to the setting. And previously it was disproportionate. I mean, I was regulated as an independent hospital. I had to have policies and procedures for care of the dying and overnight beds, and that was just to say that I had none. So it was a bit crazy. So
we've done CQC twice in the last 2 years for aesthetics with the aesthetics clinic, and then Dr. Manish had to do it, and so we have a CQC rating, but Manish went to hell and back for that CQC rating. It was, you know, it's almost like they're changing the guidelines all the time. And I don't think the customer actually understands when you've got a CQC rating. I don't think they actually have any idea of what actually goes into that. But then they don't need to, do they? Why do they? Do you know,
interestingly, the thing that really gets me about, you know, many clinics advertise as being CQC regulated, and of course that's fantastic. I know what they had to go through. I've been through it myself. But the one area that I feel is really let down by the CQC is the area of qualifications. They don't, absolutely. You know, to be a CQC registered laser clinic, you don't have to have any levels of qualifications. You have to have what's called a core of knowledge certificate and manufacturer training, and that's it. And if you happen to buy a rubbish piece of kit, the training will probably be rubbish that comes with it. So actually, when laser clinics advertise as being CQC, they've been through hell and back to get the actual qualification, but it doesn't make them experts at being, you know, laser technicians. It's your experience. No one's born a laser expert in any event. You know, we are only ever as good as our education, our learning, our training. So it really is the amount of experience you have, ideally combined with qualifications. So, but that's a whole other topic.
Right, let's get back to the disco ball. So I'm going to love you and leave you. We always go on so long. We've been on for ages. Thank you, everybody, for joining and sticking with us. I think we've been talking forever. Thank you, Kerry, as always, for your expertise and your amazing insight. And please book me the first earliest appointment on your new machine.
Fat, cellulite, be gone.
All of it. Get me bikini ready.
I
okay,
will.
darling. Take care. Happy weekend, everybody. Lots of love. Bye, bye, bye.